Good afternoon. This special meeting of the Baltimore City Council is now called to order. Please turn off all cell phones or put them on vibrate. There is no invocation, so in lieu of an invocation, we will have a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The clerk will now call the roll of members.
President Scott, Cohen, Dorsey, Henry, Schleifer, Middleton, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Sneed. Mr. President, we have a quorum.
A vacancy was created in the 2nd District of the City Council on May the 6th, 2019. Pursuant to law and the rules of the City Council, I named a nominating committee to consider applicants and make a recommendation to this council in order to fill this vacancy. Proper notice was provided to the public. The committee received applications, and then the committee met on Thursday, May 30th, 2019, to interview eligible applicants in a public hearing. At the conclusion of that meeting, the committee recommended a candidate to be nominated to the full council to approve or reject as the next council member for the 2nd District. We will now hold a vote on that recommendation. After the vote, should the council approve the committee's recommendation, we will recess the meeting so the new council member may be sworn in by the mayor. The chair now recognizes Councilwoman Sneed, chair of the 2nd District Nominating Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The 2nd District Nominating Committee met in a public session on May 30th, 2019 to consider applicants to fill the vacancy in the 2nd Council District. By a vote of 9-2, the committee nominated Danielle McCray to fill the vacancy in the 2nd Council District. Woo-hoo. I therefore make a motion to elect Danielle McCray as the next council member from the 2nd Council District.
Thank you. Second by Councilman Cohen. As required by City Council Rule 511, this must be a roll call vote. When the clerk reads your name, please state aye or nay to vote or against electing Danielle McCray to fill this vacancy in the 2nd District.
President Scott?
Yes.
Councilman Cohen?
Yes.
Councilman Dorsey?
Yes.
Councilman Henry?
Yes.
Councilman Schleifer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Middleton?
Yes.
Councilman Pinkett? Councilman Burnett?
Yes.
Councilman Bullock?
Yes.
Councilman Reisinger?
Yes.
Councilman Costello?
Yes.
Councilman Stokes?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sneed.
Another woman.
It's 13. 13. With 13 votes for the nominee, no abstentions, and no votes against, the motion carries, and Danielle McCray has been elected to serve as council member of the 2nd District. Congratulations. I hereby appoint a council escort committee to accompany the councilwoman to the mayor's office to be sworn in and sign the book. Councilwoman Sneed and Council Vice President Middleton will serve as the council escort committee. The council is now in recess and will reconvene immediately following the councilwoman's-elect swearing in. The meeting is now back in order. The clerk will call the roll of the members.
President Scott, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Henry, Schleifer, Middleton, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Sneed. Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Colleagues, I would like for us to again recognize for the first time in history the councilwoman for the 2nd District, Councilwoman Danielle McCray. Bills signed by the mayor can be found on pages 2 and 3 of the agenda. Bills to be introduced.
City Council Bill 190393, Supplementary State Fund Operating Appropriation, Police Department $2,214,357, for the purpose of providing a supplementary general fund operating appropriation in the amount of, sorry, hang on. 1 second. City Council Bill 190393, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of Public Works, $1,500,000. For the purpose of providing a supplementary general fund operating appropriation in the amount of $1,500,000 to the Department of Public Works, Service 663, to provide funding for additional operating expenses and providing for a special effective date. Sponsor, City Council President, on behalf of the administration.
This has been assigned to the Budget and Appropriations Committee.
City Council Bill 190394, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Police Department, $5 million. For the purpose of providing a supplementary general fund operating appropriation in the amount of $5 million to the Police Department, Service 622, to provide funding for additional operating expenses and providing for a special effective date. Sponsors, City Council President, on behalf of the administration.
This has been assigned to the Budget and Appropriations Committee.
City Council Bill 190395, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Fire Department, $7 million. For the purpose of providing a supplementary general fund operating appropriation in the amount of $7 million to the Fire Department, Service 602, to provide funding for additional operating expenses and providing for a special effective date. Sponsor, City Council President, on behalf of the administration.
This has been assigned to the Budget and Appropriations Committee.
City Council Bill 190396, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of Transportation, $10 million. For the purpose of providing a supplementary general fund operating appropriation in the amount of $10 million to the Department of Transportation, Service 683, to provide funding for additional operating expenses and providing for a special effective date. Sponsor, City Council President, on behalf of the administration.
This has been assigned to the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Consent calendar. You can find the consent calendar in Section A at the back of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? Moved by Councilwoman McCray. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The motion carries and this calendar is approved. We will now move to bills on second reader. Budget and Appropriations Committee.
City Council Bill 190386, Ordinance of Estimates for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020, for the purpose of providing the appropriations estimated to be needed by each agency of the City of Baltimore for operating programs and capital projects during the fiscal 2020 year.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before moving the bill, one, I'd like to thank you and your office, especially you, Mr. President, for your leadership on this, and also specifically thank Mayor Jack Young and his senior administration for their work with the City Council during this year's negotiations. We've negotiated a package that I believe reflects the shared priorities of Mayor Young and of you, Council President Scott, as well as the entirety of the council. That package includes $2.6 million for rec and parks to keep all rec centers open on Saturdays, $560,000 for rec and parks to fund the resurfacing of basketball and/or tennis courts, $1.8 million for capital for Department of Transportation for projects in the right-of-way, $100,000 for College Bound, $100,000 for the Maryland Food Bank, $200,000 to support our arts and entertainment districts, and $65,000 for Live Baltimore for a middle market housing study across the entire city, among other things. Mr. President, as you're aware, we held 55 and a half hours worth of hearings last week. Thank you to everyone from the council, as well as a huge special thank you to Michael Huber from your staff, Marguerite Curran, and Kimberly Rubens for all their hard work on this. With that, I'd like to move the bill favorably.
Second by Councilman Pinkett. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Note that Councilman Pinkett is a nay. Chair recognizes Councilman. This bill moves to third reader. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello. You can.
Mr. President, I move to move this bill from second to third reader on the same meeting.
Second by Councilman Cohen. All those in favor to invoke Council Rule 12-1 to move City Council Bill 19-0386 to third reader at the same meeting, say aye. Roll call.
President Scott,
Yes.
Councilman Cohen, Councilwoman McCray, Councilman Dorsey, Councilman Henry, Councilman Schleifer, Councilwoman Middleton, Councilman Pinkett,
Councilman Pinkett. And Councilman, you know this is to move the bill to third reader?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's an expression that reads, if you want to know someone's priorities, you need to look no further than their checkbook. And if a checkbook or bank account can serve as the window into our hearts as it pertains to our personal finances, then in the case of a city, the same can be said of its capital or operating budget. And while one could argue that there is much good in the budget that we received over the past few weeks, making homeless services a standalone agency, and the creation of the Mayor's Office of Youth and Family Success, just to name two, unfortunately, this budget doesn't include enough of those overtures to activities that are paramount to the future of our city. When I think about communities in West Baltimore, some of which are the most impoverished and disinvested in the nation, even extending back to the capital budget, there is little to no investment in the recreational opportunities for youth. Sure, the facilities are open, but what outside of a dry box and the energy and passion of the staff to serve them is there to attract these youth? For the out-of-school youth for whom the Yo Center is a lifeline, there's an insufficient commitment to reach the approximately 15,000 young people that meet this classification. West Baltimore has been now for 6 years running without a community action center, places where people get water bill assistance, eviction assistance, and utility assistance. Even as it pertains to utilizing our limited resources to access additional state dollars, if we would have just committed an additional $250,000 to weatherization, we could get an additional $4 million from the state to help about 300 or 400 more families to protect their homes from the elements. In a section of the city that receives the most returning citizens, how can the city only contribute $180,000 from our general fund for these men and women who desperately need our help? It is an understatement to say that this is a tumultuous time in our city, with the resignation of a mayor and an attack on our computer systems. But in this disarray, there was an opportunity to set some things straight and fix some structural things that have been broken for far too long. In a city that has a track record for the inequitable distribution of funds, this budget does little to change that reputation. I vote no.
Councilman Burnett, Councilman Bullock, Councilman Reisinger, Councilman Costello,
Yes.
Councilman Stokes, Councilwoman Sneed,
Thank you. The ayes have it. The motion carried, and Council Bill 19-0386 is on third reader.
City Council Bill 19-0387, Annual Property Tax, Fiscal Year 2020. For the purpose of providing a tax for the use of the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore for the period July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, providing for estimated billings pursuant to state law, and setting the semi-annual payment service charge for that period.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill favorably.
Second by Councilman Pinkett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. This motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 19-0388, Operating Budget for the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020. For the purpose of approving the budget estimated to be needed for the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners for operating programs during fiscal 2020, providing for certification of the approved budget to the State Superintendent of Schools, and providing for a special effective date.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill favorably.
Second by Councilman Pinkett. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 19-0391, Supplementary State Fund Operating Appropriation, Police Department, $2,214,300 $357 for the purpose of providing a supplementary state fund operating appropriation in the amount of $2,214,357 to the Police Department Service 621 to provide funding to support information technology upgrades, a critical step in modernizing the department and meeting the requirements of the consent decree with the U.S. Department of Justice and providing for a special effective date.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill favorably.
Second by Councilman Pinkett. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion, please note that Councilman Dorsey is a nay. This bill moves to third reader. Judiciary and legislative investigations.
City Council Bill 180302, Late Night Commercial Operations Licensing, for the purpose of deleting an exception for the sale of motor vehicle fuels, authorizing the issuance of a conditional license for certain delivery services, and generally related to the licensing of late-night commercial operations.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's amendments on my colleague's desk. I move the amendments.
Second by Councilman Henry. All those in favor of approving the amendment say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion is approved. This bill is amended. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill favorably as amended.
Second by Councilman Henry. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye. Those opposed say nay. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader. Labor Committee.
City Council Bill 190334, Community Relations Redefining Employer, for the purpose of redefining employer for purposes of the laws governing unlawful employment practices.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Snead.
Thank you. The bill was heard on May 16, 2019. The committee approved the bill as favorable.
Second from Council. Oh, you have a motion.
Oh, I move a motion. Can I have a motion to move the bill forward?
Second by Councilwoman McCray. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The motion approved. This bill moves to third reader. Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development.
City Council Bill 190326, Sale of Property, Air Rights, Area over a portion of the public right-of-way of the 4100 block of Hillen Road, for the purpose of authorizing the mayor and city council of Baltimore to sell, at either public or private sale, all its interest in the air rights over a portion of the public right-of-way of the 4100 block of Hillen Road and no longer needed for public use, and providing for a special effective date.
Chair recognizes Council Vice President Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill was heard on May 16th, 2019. The sponsor was the City Council President on behalf of the administration. The committee approved the bill as favorable. I move the bill with a favorable report.
Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey.
Council President, I'll ask this bill be held.
One moment.
I move to table this bill for the time being.
That's fine. Yeah. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? This bill will be held for one meeting.
City Council Bill 190331, Corrective Consumer Price Index used in the adjustment of the energy tax rate, for the purpose of correcting the name of the Consumer Price Index used in the annual adjustment of the energy tax rate, modifying the fiscal year for the rate adjustment, and providing for a special effective date.
Chair recognizes Council Vice President Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill was heard on May 16th, 2019. Sponsor, City Council President, on behalf of the administration. The committee approved the bill as favorable. I move the bill with a favorable report.
Second by Councilman Pinkett. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Thank you. This bill is approved. Third reader moves to third reader. Third reader requiring invocation of Rule 12-1 for same-day advancement. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Pardon me. I move we use short titles on third reader.
Second by Councilman Henry. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Short titles for the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
City Council Bill 190386, Ordinance of Estimates for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020. President Scott, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Henry, Schleifer, Middleton,
Chair recognizes Councilman Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an awkward time. I agree with many, if not most, of the points that my colleague from the 7th District raised about the budget before us this evening. What makes it especially awkward is the recent transition in leadership has put us in a position where the mayor charged with implementing this budget is not the mayor who directed its formulation. And the incredibly awful timing of the city's recent IT crisis has made it difficult for us to react and respond as quickly and as nimbly as we would have liked to. The difference I would take with my colleagues' remarks is that I am going to choose to be trusting, and I'm going to choose to be hopeful, and I'm going to take as inspiration words from the very last of the 57 hours of budget hearings we had last week, where the police department admitted that the budget that they were bringing before us was not the budget that they wanted, and it was not the budget that they agreed was needed, but that this is what the people now in charge of the department had been given to work with, and they asked us as the city council to trust them and work with them to make it a better budget and make the department a better department. And so I'm willing to extend that to the entire city and say, yes, there are a lot of things that are in this budget that we're not necessarily happy with, but there are even more things that aren't in this budget that were issues that were raised at last week's hearing. Additional investments in youth development. The Community Action Partnership Center that has been missing in West Baltimore. My colleague who is still without a rec program in his district, despite the fact that there are 43 citywide. We had hoped that there would be a year-round Youth Works pilot in this year's budget that didn't make it in. But these and other items, we are told, will be items that the administration, the current administration, will work with us on starting literally tomorrow as we begin to formulate the FY21 budget. And so in that hope and spirit of cooperation, I am voting yes on this budget, but I expect to see that cooperation not just next year at budget season, but all throughout this year as the council is included more actively and more openly in the actual formulation of the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I do want to also echo the sentiments of my colleague, Councilman Henry, and just add, my own similar sense. This is my third year as a member of this council. This is my third budget, and it's the third time where nothing that I have asked for in any pointed fashion has materialized in this budget in any way. I am quite disappointed with it, but as my colleague pointed out, this is something that was developed by the previous administration, with whom I found it impossible to work in any capacity. And I just want to make that really clear, that the things that it doesn't have in it that I have been asking for, in particular for my district, are things that I have been asking for 3 years. And Mayor Young and Council President Scott are, and their staff, respectively, are aware of these concerns. And I have repeatedly received assurances that these are things that are going to be addressed over the next year. It's not just, it's perhaps enough to generalize that the administration was, the previous administration was uncooperative, but it's compounded by other leadership that it chose. And we've had not just a turnover in our mayor and city council president, but we had a transportation director resign. And everybody here knows that I place a lot of emphasis on the need for transportation change in Baltimore City. To put a point on it, in this budget, I don't know the exact numbers, but the last couple of years, we've had $250 million coming in revenues related to the use of single occupancy vehicles, and only $200 million going to the Department of Transportation, and none of them going to promote alternatives to single occupancy vehicle dependence as essentially the only way that anybody can realistically live in Baltimore City and thrive. Not only does this fly in the face of the 30% of households that lack access to a vehicle, but it makes a statement that we think climate change is a joke. I know that the council president and Mayor Young have heard me loud and clear about these things, and that I have to trust that they're going to work with me over the next year, starting, as Councilman Henry said, tomorrow, to pursue these things wherever we have some lateral room in this budget, which I believe is a significant space in it as well. And if for no other reason, 2 years ago, I gave Mayor Pugh and Council President Young the benefit of the doubt on a budget then that I didn't think represented my interests or the needs of the city. As Councilman Pinkett said, failed to really in any meaningful way move the needle on the systemic kind of change that this city deserves and needs desperately. I gave them the benefit of the doubt 2 years ago, and then I voted against the budget last year. I'm here fully prepared to vote against the budget next year, while today giving the benefit of the doubt, and particularly in light of the confidence that that's been inspired in me by Council President Scott and the staff of Mayor Young, to give my vote of support for this budget.
Councilman Schleifer, Councilwoman Middleton, Councilman Pinkett.
Chair recognizes Councilman Pinkett.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's a passage of scripture that says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. And the reality is that for too many of our communities, too many of our residents, the only thing that they've been sustaining themselves on is hope. And at this point, they become sick, and communities have become sick, and families have become sick. And if not now, when? This is a moment, this is a window of opportunity. In the midst of all of this turmoil that our city has experienced and continues to face, for us to rise above that, and even though we can, and rightfully so, say that we've inherited much that we've had to deal with, I believe that there was some semblance of trust that we would be the body that could handle what was given unto us, no matter what form it came in. And so I stand with hope, just like my colleagues, that in the upcoming budgets, it will reflect the priorities that I believe that we all share. But we can't sustain on hope, and neither can our communities.
Councilman, you have to give your vote.
No.
Thank you.
Councilman Burnett, Councilman Bullock, Councilman Reisinger, Councilman Costello, Councilman Stokes, Councilwoman Sneed.
This bill is approved. Before we go any further, I want to first thank my colleagues on the council for helping me get through this first budget season as council president. As been noted today, I came in very late in the process in what has been a difficult time in Baltimore City, not just for city government, but for all our residents. Day one, during this budget process, my top priority was to demand increased recreational opportunities for our city's young people, and I began working on that immediately. Having our rec centers open on Saturdays is a significant step into moving Baltimore towards expanded and improved opportunities for our young people. In addition to having the centers open on Saturdays, we, the council, were able to secure increased funding to improve outdoor recreational spaces like basketball courts, which is a dire need throughout the city. These investments, along with investments in the Maryland Food Bank, operating budget support for arts and entertainment districts, including the first Black Arts and Entertainment District in Baltimore, and neighborhood infrastructure investments are a signal to our neighborhoods that they will matter once again. I was very clear throughout this process that things will be different in the years to come, immediately starting next year, and we will unquestionably be focused on increasing local funding to our school system. But these wins today for our rec centers and our children are significant, and I don't think that we can just gloss over that. We will be different moving forward. As I said multiple times during the budget season, we will have processes that will be different, but also we will be focused in on improving and increasing our funding to schools because we know that the Kerwin Commission is coming. Thank you. Third reader for final passage.
City Council Bill 180347, City Property, naming the baseball diamond located City Council Bill 190347, City Property, naming the baseball diamond located in the southeast portion of Swan Park, 300 West Macoma Street, the Al Kaline Field. President Scott, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Henry, Schleifer, Middleton, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Sneed.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 190348, zoning conditional use conversion of a single-family dwelling unit to 2 dwelling units in the R7 zoning district, variances 343 Robert Street. President Scott, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Henry, Schleifer, Middleton, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Sneed, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 190354, underground conduit system for cables, wires, and similar facilities. President Scott, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Henry, Schleifer, Middleton, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Sneed.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 190355, rezoning 141 to 145 West Hamburg Street for the purpose of changing the zoning for the property known as 141 to 145 West Hamburg Street as outlined in red on the accompanying plat from the R7 zoning district to the C1 zoning district. President Scott, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Henry, Schleifer, Middleton, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Sneed.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 190366, commercial parking facilities revisions. President Scott, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Henry, Schleifer, Middleton, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Sneed.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 190385, gender-inclusive single-user restrooms. President Scott, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Henry, Schleifer, Middleton, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Sneed.
Chair recognizes Councilman Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to my colleagues as well for supporting this legislation. It is Pride Month, and I am proud that we as a council are taking this affirmative step in support of our LGBTQ community. A trans woman recently wrote an article in the Baltimore Brew where she said, for me, this is about our right to exist in public space. And I think that's an important statement, and I think that is what this council has decided to affirm today. So I again thank my colleagues. I thank Alen, Kobe, and all the advocacy that went into this. And let's continue to push for those whose voices have not always been heard in this chamber.
This bill is approved. Committee announcements. Committee announcements. Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Mr. President, members of the council, the Land Use and Transportation Committee is rescheduling the public hearing for Bill 19-0356. This bill was originally scheduled to be heard on June the 12th. The public hearing for the bill will now take place on July 10th at 1:10 p.m. in the council chambers. This bill is a zoning map amendment located at 123 South Chester Street. The committee will hold a hearing on Bill 19-0351 on August 7th at 1 p.m. in the council chambers. This rezoning located at 3515 East Lombard Street. The committee will hold a hearing on Bill 19-0390 on August 7th at 1:05 p.m. in the council chambers. This is a rezoning located at 1617 Broning Highway. The committee will hold a hearing on Bill 19-0372 on August 7th at 1:10 p.m. in the council chambers. This is a zoning Fells Point overlay district. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to suspend rules 10-2 and 10-3 to announce a hearing.
Second by Council Vice President Middleton. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion approved.
Budget and Appropriations Committee will hold a hearing on Thursday, June 13th at 1 p.m. in Chambers on Council Bill 19-0393, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation, Department of Public Works, in the amount of $1.5 million. Move to suspend rules 10-2 and 10-3 to announce a hearing.
Second by Councilman Stokes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion approved.
Budget and Appropriations Committee will hold a hearing on Thursday, June 13th at 1:01 p.m. In Chambers on Council Bill 19-0394, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation for the Police Department in the amount of $5 million. Move to suspend rules 10-2 and 10-3 to announce a hearing.
Second by Councilman Cohen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion approved.
Budget and Appropriations Committee will hold a hearing on Thursday, June 13th at 1:02 p.m. in Chambers on Council Bill 19-0395, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation for the Fire Department in the amount of $7 million. Move to suspend rules 10-2 and 10-3 to announce a hearing.
Second by Councilwoman Sneed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion approved.
Budget and Appropriations Committee will hold a hearing on Thursday, June 13th at 1:03 p.m. in Chambers on Council Bill 19-0396, Supplementary General Fund Operating Appropriation for the Department of Transportation in the amount of $10 million. Committee will also hold a hearing on Thursday, June 13th at 1:15 p.m. on Council Bill 19-0358, Children and Youth Fund Interim Governance and Administration 1-year extension. Judiciary and Legislative Investigations Committee will hold a hearing on Tuesday, July 9th, 10 a.m. on Council Bill 19-0376, Financial Disclosures, Fixing Filers, Filing, and Filings. Say that 3 times fast. Judiciary and Legislative Investigations Committee will also hold a hearing on that same day at 10:05 a.m. on Council Bill 19-0377, Whistleblower Rights and Responsibilities. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Council Vice President Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee will hear City Council Bill 19-0343 this Thursday, June 13th, 2019 at 10 a.m. here in Council Chambers for the purpose of postponing for an interim period the automatic termination of the Minority and Women's Business Program, providing for a special effective date and generally related to city procurement requirements.
Thank you. The clearing of the bill status can be found on the agenda and is open until June the 24th. Regular announcements. Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. First, I'd like to remind folks that due to the ransomware attack, technical challenges that my office faced, we extended the deadline for applications for my Artist District application. So applications are open until this Friday for anybody that happens to be watching this on Charm TV or elsewhere. You can go to artistdistrict.org and apply for free to be one of 4 recipients of $3,000 grants that are eligible to certain residents of the 3rd District. Second of all, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for the 133 victims of gun violence that have died here in Baltimore City so far this year.
Thank you. Regular announcements. Chair recognizes Council Vice President Middleton. One second, Council Vice President. Yes. City Council Bill 19-0326, sale of property air rights over a portion of the public right-of-way of the 4100 block of Hillen Road will be held until the June 17th meeting. Thank you. Chair recognizes Council Vice President Milton.
The next meeting of the City Council will be held on Tuesday, today, June 11th, 2019, at 5 p.m. And we're also going to have a moment of silence for the victims that Councilman Dorsey just mentioned.
Thank you. There being no further business, this concludes the 60th meeting of the 72nd term of the Baltimore City Council. The next meeting will be held on today at 5 p.m.